The story of modern Iran is a tale of profound and dramatic transformation, a nation that has experienced two vastly different identities within a single lifetime. Understanding Iran today requires looking back at what it once was. Before 1979, the country charted a course closely aligned with Western cultural norms and social freedoms, presenting a face to the world that is almost unrecognizable now. Women in Tehran wore miniskirts and attended universities alongside men, while a vibrant arts and music scene flourished. This era, under the rule of the Shah, represented a period of secular modernization, though it was not without its own deep political tensions and widespread dissent simmering beneath the surface of its cosmopolitan veneer. This period of relative social openness came to an abrupt and definitive end with the Islamic Revolution of 1979. The revolution was not merely a change in government, it was a fundamental reshaping of the nation's soul. It ushered in a theocratic state governed by a strict interpretation of Sharia law, completely altering the fabric of daily life for every citizen. The freedoms that many had taken for granted were replaced by a new set of rules dictating dress, behavior, and social interaction. This shift created a deep chasm between the Iran of the past and the Iran of the present, a division that continues to define the country's internal struggles and its relationship with the outside world. The changes were felt in every corner of society, from the bustling city streets to the quiet private spaces of family homes. Public life became governed by religious edicts enforced by the state. The once thriving secular culture was driven underground, replaced by an officially sanctioned culture that promoted revolutionary and Islamic values. For the generation that remembered life before the revolution, the transition was a jarring and often painful experience. They had to navigate a new world where the rules were different, the expectations had shifted, and the very definition of what it meant to be Iranian had been redrawn along starkly religious and political lines. Today, Iran finds itself at another critical juncture, caught in a dangerous conflict with the United States and Israel that threatens to plunge the entire region into a wider war. On June 22, 2025, the long-simmering tensions erupted into open military action, with the United States launching devastating strikes against key Iranian nuclear facilities. This recent escalation adds another complex and perilous layer to Iran's story. The consequences of these events are still unfolding, but they are already being felt deeply by the Iranian people, who now face the dual pressures of a restrictive government at home and the looming threat of foreign military intervention from abroad. Before the seismic shift of the 1979 revolution, Iran presented a very different image to the world. In major cities like Tehran, a modern and cosmopolitan lifestyle was taking hold, heavily influenced by Western culture. It was an era where personal freedoms, particularly for women, were expanding in ways that seem almost unbelievable today. Women could pursue higher education and professional careers, and their presence was common in universities, workplaces, and public spaces. Fashion was a reflection of this openness. Women were free to choose their attire, with many adopting the latest Western styles, from fashionable dresses to miniskirts, without fear of official reprisal. The cultural landscape of pre-revolutionary Iran was vibrant and diverse. The country had a flourishing film industry, often celebrated at international festivals, and its music scene was a rich tapestry of traditional Persian melodies and Western-inspired pop and rock. Art galleries showcased modern and avant-garde works, and intellectuals engaged in lively debates about the future of their nation. This period, under the monarchy of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was characterized by a government-led push for secularism and modernization. The goal was to build a powerful, prosperous nation that could stand as an equal on the global stage, closely allied with the United States and other Western powers. However, this veneer of progress and liberty concealed a more complicated reality. While the urban elite enjoyed a liberal lifestyle, much of the country remained deeply traditional and religious. The Shah's rapid modernization and secularization programs alienated large segments of the population, especially the clergy and the rural poor. Furthermore, his rule was authoritarian. Political dissent was ruthlessly suppressed by his feared secret police, Savak, and many Iranians felt that the nation's wealth and cultural identity were being squandered in favor of a shallow imitation of the West. This growing discontent created fertile ground for the revolutionary movement that would soon sweep the country. Despite these underlying tensions, for many ordinary Iranians, especially in the cities, it was a time of perceived opportunity and personal choice. The dream of a modern, forward-looking Iran seemed within reach. Young people could socialize freely, attend concerts, and go to the cinema to watch both Iranian and Hollywood films. The contrast with the era that followed could not be more stark. The memory of this time persists, often romanticized, as a golden age of freedom for those who feel stifled by the restrictions of the current system, serving as a powerful reminder of the different path Iran could have taken. The Islamic Revolution of 1979, led by the exiled Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, was a watershed moment that irrevocably changed Iran. When the Shah fled the country, it marked the end of 2,500 years of monarchy and the beginning of a new era, the Islamic Republic. The revolution's leaders promised to restore national identity and independence, freeing Iran from foreign influence and corruption. Their vision was to build a society based on the principles of Islam, and they moved swiftly to implement a legal system based on a strict interpretation of Sharia law. This new reality brought immediate and sweeping changes to the daily lives of all Iranians. One of the most visible changes was the imposition of the mandatory hijab, or headscarf, for all women in public. This was just the beginning of a series of laws that reshaped social norms. Gender segregation was enforced in many public spaces, including schools and buses. The legal age for marriage for girls was lowered, and women's rights in matters of divorce, child custody, and inheritance were significantly curtailed. The morality police became a common sight on the streets, tasked with enforcing the state's strict dress code and rules on public behavior, creating an atmosphere of constant surveillance and control over personal choices. The cultural landscape was also completely transformed. Western music and films were banned, and the once vibrant arts scene was forced to conform to strict Islamic guidelines. The state took control of the media, using television, radio, and newspapers to promote its revolutionary ideology and religious values. Education was overhauled to align with the new system, with textbooks rewritten to emphasize Islamic history and revolutionary principles. For many, especially the young and those who had embraced the modern lifestyle of the previous era, it felt as though a curtain had fallen, cutting them off from the rest of the world and from the freedoms they once knew. Life under Sharia law created a society of dualities. While public life was strictly regulated, many Iranians sought to preserve their personal freedoms within the privacy of their own homes. Behind closed doors, people would listen to forbidden music, watch foreign satellite television, and hold mixed gender gatherings, creating a stark contrast between their public and private lives. This internal struggle has become a defining characteristic of Iranian society, a constant negotiation between state-imposed rules and the enduring desire for personal autonomy and self-expression, a tension that continues to fuel social unrest and protests to this day. The fragile stability of the Middle East was shattered on June 22, 2025, when the United States, under President Donald Trump, launched a massive military assault on Iran's nuclear program, despite Trump repeatedly stating in his campaign that he would not go to war. In a swift and decisive operation, American B-2 stealth bombers, armed with powerful bunker buster bombs, targeted 3 of Iran's most critical and fortified nuclear sites, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. President Trump declared the facilities totally obliterated, justifying the action as necessary to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, even as critics pointed out the contradiction with his campaign promises. The attack marked a dramatic escalation, moving the long-standing shadow war between the nations into direct, open conflict. The international response was immediate and deeply divided. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu praised the American strike as a bold decision that could change the course of history. But it's important to remember, Netanyahu has a long history of making false claims. He said Iran was just weeks away from a nuclear bomb 30 years ago. 30 years, and the story hasn't changed. In stark contrast, leaders across the world express grave concern. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the strikes as a dangerous escalation, while UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer called for immediate de-escalation to prevent a wider regional war. Inside the United States, the action was fiercely debated, with Republicans supporting the move while Democrats condemned it as an unconstitutional act of war. For the people of Iran, the attacks brought a new and terrifying reality. While the Iranian government officially downplayed the extent of the damage, news of the strike spread rapidly, causing fear and uncertainty. In retaliation, Iran launched a barrage of ballistic missiles at Israel, injuring several people in cities like Tel Aviv and Haifa, and demonstrating its willingness to strike back. An advisor to Supreme Leader Khamenei threatened to close the vital Strait of Hormuz, a move that would cripple global oil supplies. The entire region was placed on high alert, with citizens bracing for what might come next. These recent events have profoundly altered life for ordinary Iranians, who are now caught between an oppressive government and a hostile world. The conflict has intensified the sense of isolation and hardship, adding the terror of war to the daily struggles for economic survival and personal freedom. The future of Iran, a nation with a rich history and a resilient people, now hangs precariously in the balance. The path forward is uncertain, clouded by the specter of continued conflict and the deep-seated divisions that have defined its modern history. But make no mistake, this war is a scam from all sides. Politicians and leaders use fear, lies, and manipulation to serve their own interests, while ordinary people pay the price. The world watches, hoping that diplomacy can prevail over the drums of war.